happy Wednesday, happy state of the industry. We won't be giving stats on iPhone users today. Well, maybe we will. Chris, you'll have to tell us. Let's get started. We have some fun things to share with you guys and some fun things to recap because we've had a lot of initiatives in the last couple months. So we're going to talk about those. But like we do every month, we have new faces. So I am Katie Hardman, the Chief Opportunity Officer for the Experience Brokerage Network and team leader of Keller Williams Sunset Corridor and Keller Williams Capital City. And I am joined by my partners. Leslie, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am Leslie Hilbert, General Manager of the Experience Brokerage Network, which encompasses all four of our amazing Keller Williams Market Center, and team leader of our Eugene Springfield location.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know Chris, who are you?
Let me read the slide. What do they call me? I'm the operating principal. I'm one of you. I'm a real estate agent here in the network.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you for joining us today. And the reason that we introduce ourselves is because between the last time we met and this time, we have 20 new family members. We have 20 people who have joined the Experience Brokerage Network across the state of Oregon.
Awesome.
Welcome to all the names on the screen. We've got a lot of Allie, Allison, A names this time. So welcome everybody. We are excited to be in business with each and every one of you. And we hope that you find value in today and every state of the industry. Now, a couple housekeeping things before we get started. Between the last time we met and this time we met, we also had an open house extravaganza. So I wanted to just quickly share with you guys that we sent out a survey afterwards to gain some insight in, was this successful? And based on those who submitted their results from the survey and from the open house, we gathered averages, and we found out that there were 1,011 opportunities created, 237 leads created, and 13 contracts written on that day. So I call that a success.
Awesome.
Great job to all of you. Great day for the Experience Brokerage Network and all Keller Williams in the state of Oregon, because it wasn't just our network that participated, it was all Keller Williams. And because of the success and because of the feedback from all of you, we will be hosting a second one this year in September. So we are looking at dates. We have two in mind, and we are going to run it by our associate leadership councils and make sure it works for everybody. And we will get that to you very, very soon. But just mark your calendars. Know that in September, we will be doing this again and hopefully in a bigger and better way. So thank you guys and congrats on all of your success. Now, second thing, because this is coming up right around the corner, August 12th and 15th, if you have not heard of Mega Camp or been to Mega Camp, it is Keller Williams National Convention, second one of the year. They always do Family Reunion in February and Mega Camp in Austin in August, which I've lived in Austin in August, and good thing the convention center is air conditioned. Plan accordingly. But I just wanted to put this on everybody's radar. If you haven't signed up, it is for agents who are looking to become mega agents or scale their business and get great ideas on how to grow your business. So it's a fun couple of days to learn and grow. So we will put the link in the chat if you're interested in more information. And it's time to also start planning for this because it'll be here before you know it, and rooms fill up, tickets get sold out. Family Reunion 2025 will be back in Vegas, which is good for us, right? Like that's an easy flight, direct. So if this is not on your radar, we're going to put the link in the chat for this as well, and just wanted to make sure that you're planning for the next 12 months and have this on your schedule. More to come on that in the next coming months as we get details on keynote speakers, but just want to make sure you guys have those two things on your radar. Now, this is something that's passed, but Leslie, do you want to fill us in on what happened on this open house this week?
Absolutely. And just so you know, we know that the NAR settlement is a huge topic. And fortunately, earlier this week, KWRI, so Keller Williams International Leadership, under attorney review and approval, actually hosted an entire open house to address the NAR settlement. They discussed the latest insights, the updates on the NAR settlement, and what's to come, with the benefit of Keller Williams International's attorneys being present to make sure that everything was approved and in compliance. Now, even though this is the state of the industry and we are going to do the mid-year update, we are not going to be spending any time on the NAR settlement today because you already had that incredible opportunity earlier this week. But what we will say is that, Kitty, if you want to just go to the next slide, we're going to make sure that we provide you today a recording of that broadcast so that you can get all of the information right from Keller Williams International and those attorneys, as well as the resource links, which we'll drop in the chat and provide in our follow-up email. What is important is that during that live stream, they underscored the practice changes agreed on by NAR that will go into effect on August 17th for realtor MLSs and September 16th for non-realtor MLSs that have opted in. They went through key points and a compilation of the most frequently asked questions by agents that they have been collecting over the last couple months and presenting those. As you know, the new settlement lays out the guidelines to keep us all in compliance. Once again, we're not going to go through those because you have those resources and we have taught them extensively at a market center level. So make sure that you're continuing to tap in to the opportunities provided you by your local leadership team as well as XPN network leadership. We will continue to provide you the latest insights as well as teachings, trainings on contracts, dialogues, and the skills required to succeed in this changing landscape. So please check out that live stream for all of the details and stay tuned for more as we navigate the next couple of months together.
Awesome. So yes, we will get all that information out to you guys. Stay tuned in. We will continue to provide resources. But we want to spend today, oh, Chris, there's your face. I'll pull that down. Talking about a mid-year update. Can you believe we're halfway through the year? Or almost halfway through the year? Isn't that wild? Time to check in. How are we doing? How is our industry doing? There's been so much that's changed. Chris, we wanted to have you on here to give an economic update and tell us what you're hearing from our partners at Goldman Sachs and also just what's going on.
Yeah, happy to do it. So thanks for having me on. I was on last month. So every couple months we get together and we just go through some real estate market updates. We look at real estate activity. And this is going to be a national look at what's going on. It's really important for us to, on a macro level, to see where we are, where is the industry headed, what should we expect for the coming months and the rest of the year and maybe into 2025. We look at real estate economics. This is going to sort of help us advise our clients on what to do now. And then we do a quick look at mortgage and debt. Because obviously, in fact, this year, perhaps more than most years, the mortgage industry and debt is affecting our market considerably, right? The flow of our market, sellers being willing to sell, buyers being able to buy. So we'll spend a little bit more time maybe today on mortgage and debt than we normally do. We know we have incredible partners, and actually you'll be hearing probably in the next couple of weeks some new programs that we're rolling out over at Envoy as well. Envoy Mortgage, doing some really cool programs. And I do believe that over the course of the next 30, 60, and 90 days, as we as consultants need to show up with better information and stronger value to our buyers, understanding what programs are out there and having unique offerings for your buyers with your mortgage partners is probably going to be more important than it ever was before. And that is why we have been sort of doing some heavy lifting on the mortgage side to deliver 3 or 4 new programs that we're excited to roll out here in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. We'll get some webinars going. But we're looking for ways to help buyers buy without selling. We're looking for ways to provide bridge loans, which used to be used and then went away. Looking for partners to actually purchase homes for cash and then allow a buyer to go through the mortgage process post-closing to show up as cash buyer. So super exciting programs, but that's for another day. So we're about halfway through the year, as Katie said. Every month, I have a call with some chief economists over at Goldman Sachs. We sort of talk about what's going on in the overall economy, awesome, but more importantly to us, our companies, what's going on in the real estate market. I've sort of digested all the reports. They send me about 4 or 5 different reports. I digest those, and I've sort of taken out some graphs that I'm going to share with us today, specifically starting with real estate activity. So let me just give you a quick overview. And by the way, I'm going to try to monitor chat as I go. If you want to stop me and ask a question, it'd be best for you to use the hand raise, because then I will see that and I can call on you. Otherwise, Katie wound me up this morning, and I will just keep going. So real quick, as we look at overall real estate data, we still look at the Case-Shiller report, right? We've been looking at that for years. In fact, some of you have been in our organization for a decade. I've been here for that decade. And from a decade to today, we look at that Case-Shiller National Home Price Index every single month to kind of see what's going on. Over the last few months, as recent as we can see, we saw a 0.41%. So let's just call it a 0.5% month over month growth. That would give us about a 5% annualized adjusted seasonally increase in value over the course of this year is what we're trending towards. Now, I don't expect us to end there, but that's what the first half of the year has trended us towards, looking at about a 5% increase in value across the country. Now, given the lagged relationship between mortgage rates and home price appreciation, we think, and by we I mean Goldman and their economists think, that the rally in rates in November and December and January could actually be partially responsible for the index's strength in increase in value, which, said a different way, or perhaps more simply, that we may actually see some pullback in that increase in value. We'll probably end 2024 with about 4 to 4.3% increase across the country in home values. And they expect it a bit slower in 2025, potentially a 3% increase in 2025. So if someone says, hey, where are things going? What does it look like? Where are we headed? We can only look at where we've been and then make some calls based on how mortgage rates are affecting, right, buyer ability and pricing. We're still going to see increase in value across this country by, worst case scenario, 3%, but economists think about 4.5% this year, and maybe another 3.5% next year. So if a buyer is looking to buy, right, they can buy now, or if they buy at the end of next year, they're going to be paying 7.5% more than they would have today. Like, those are real numbers. So keep that in mind. But let's look at some data, real estate activity data. This is just an overall expectation that Goldman has shared. They expect existing home sales to actually decline. Now, why does that matter to us? Because this is our addressable opportunity. This is the number of homes selling month over month over month. They take that monthly sale and say, well, okay, if we sold that number of homes every single month, how many would we sell for the year? And we see what happened in December and January. We saw a bit of a increase or decrease rather in mortgage, or loosening in the mortgage market. We saw a bump up in units sold, but they actually expect a decline in coming months for units sold. So why should that matter to us? Because it means that there will be fewer available homes for you to represent a buyer on, or you to represent a seller on, as we head into September and October. And then they think it'll begin to pick up in 25 and 26. But we may see the fewest number of homes sold over the course of 2024 that we've seen in a year for decades. And so if you feel, gosh, things feel a little bit slow right now, or I'm a little bit worried or concerned because I don't have a lot going on, we're about 1 million fewer homes this year that this country will sell or transfer or trade than we typically do. So you will feel that. You will see that, you will feel that. You should be mindful of that, and then be asking yourself, like, well, gosh, like, what do I need to do if I don't want to go backwards? Because that's a 20% decline in units year over year, right? Or 2 years over year. So if you don't want your business to recede by 20%, then you must do something different. And that's why I look at that graph, like, where are we? What is the temperature? What should I be feeling? What should I be experiencing? How is that going to show up in my world or this business? By the way, Portland is not immune to that. Oregon, is not immune to that. Eugene's market, not immune to that. Salem's market, not immune to that. Like, we're all feeling it in the state of Oregon. Next slide. This is interesting because you might say, no, Chris, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't feel it. Well, that's because the first quarter is actually up 2% year to date or really through April. Existing home sales are up 2% year to date. But I'm just telling you that everybody that has looked at this data expects that to pull back and us to sell fewer homes in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So be mindful of that, and be ready to potentially adjust or make changes in your activity for the next few months. By the way, what you do in July and August will matter. I know we have another open house event scheduled in September, but if I were you, I'd be doing an open house event in June and July and August. Like, I would be increasing my activity to be prepared for the slowdown in units over the course of the third and fourth quarter. Home buyer sentiment. Now, this is good news. Home buyer sentiment, somewhat approved, right? We see that and this is Fannie Mae going out and connecting with buyers and saying, hey, how do you feel about the market? Are you bullish on the market? Are you still thinking about buying? We saw the sentiment in 2022 and we saw the sentiment in 2023. Like, nobody was super excited about buying a home. We've actually begun to see that pull back up, and people still feel comfortable and confident in buying. We saw it level down earlier in the year in January and February and March, but in April and May and June, or in April and May rather, we've begun to see that improve a bit as well. So that's good. That's the temperature. It is the motivation of the buyer, if you will. This is going to affect our market and your buyer pool. This is a graph that shows the share of young adults. By young, this seems a little bit aggressive. But young is, so many of you, congratulations. The government and country calls you young if you're 34 to 18. So 18 to 34-year-olds, that share of individuals in that age range are living with their parents a little bit longer. So you see that percentage, that's a big percentage, right? If you look historically, we're in the 27, 28% range. If there was a median line across the 80s, 90s, 2000s and forward, but we're up to about 32.5% of all individuals between 18 and 34 living with mom and dad. So if you have teenagers, be ready. You got another 20 years. Remodel the basement or buy a bigger house. Buy a bigger house. One of us can help you. Next one. Given that statistic, you see the 10-year moving average of household formation, and we are now below the long-term trend line of year-over-year household formation. Now, that is a concern if you think about our industry, because our industry is predicated and dictated by how many households are forming. And when there's a household that's formed, someone needs to go out and rent a property or buy a property. And so we see household formation actually pulling back. We see what happened during COVID. No one was forming households. We weren't allowed to, right? Like, we would have been fined or whatever we were gonna do, but no one was forming households. But post-COVID, when people could move about, what happened? Household formation jumped up, but we're down again from 23 and 24, and it's trending down largely because of what we just looked at. When this is going up, the typical home buyer is what? First-time home buyer. They're leaving their home. They graduated college. They're getting married. They're starting a family. Household formation is just is on the decline. So again, as I'm looking at big picture out a year or 2 years, these numbers will absolutely affect us a year from today, 2 years from today, 3 years from today. Last graph when we look at real estate activity is just the U.S. homeownership rate. It went down in quarter one, 2024. We're roughly about 65.7%. We were above 69% of Americans being homeowners, which was incredible. It is the wealth building vehicle in our country. Like, we want to get back to 69, 70% homeownership rate. And so why? Well, affordability. Like affordability has everything to do with the home ownership rate. And so as affordability declines, meaning it's less affordable to own a home, then what do people do? They wind up renting. They wind up staying at home, right, with parents or cohabitating. And so there might be one homeowner and two other potential homeowners renting rooms or staying or cohabitating. So it's just something to be mindful of, that US homeownership rate. And actually the government wants that higher. So the reason why I look at that is if we continue to see that drop, there will be more incentive for the Fed to say, hey, how do we get people to be homeowners? You remember what happened in 01 and 02 and 03. There were wild incentives for first-time buyers. There were down payment assistance programs. Like the government was sort of funding and fueling homeownership. Now, some of you, let me say this in a non-judgmental way. Some of you didn't like that. You had opinions about that. You say, gosh, the government's blowing money. Like, why are we doing that? People, and I get all of that. But interestingly enough, like GDP, the majority of GDP comes from housing. So homeowners, where they might have gotten $8,000 from actually from us, right? From taxpayers, they may have gotten $8,000. But now they're spending 15,000 and 20,000 and 30,000. Like they're investing money into those assets. So big picture, if we understand how the economy works in this country and where GDP shows up from and comes from and inflation and how that, like, interestingly enough, we want homeownership. Like we absolutely do, because it actually fuels spending. Just ask Home Depot. All right, real estate economics. What should we know about? Let's just look at a big picture look. These are housing forecasts. So Goldman goes out to not just their economists, goes out to all economists across multiple platforms and says, hey, what do we think is going to happen? What are the forecasts? And so you'll see, mostly I want to jump down to housing starts, because that's what's going on in construction. Are people building? You'll see in 2023, we had 1.4 million housing starts. In 2024, we'll probably have 1.383 million housing starts. We expect that to rebound in 2025, but again, less product. We brought less product to market in 2024 than we did in 2023, and hopefully that we'll do in 2025. You'll see existing home sales. Now look at Q3 2024. We expect Q3 to be on pace to be selling. Remember what that number means. That month, if we sold the same number of homes that month we did every single month, we would only sell under 4 million homes. Q3, be prepared. From a individual perspective, from a team perspective, from a brokerage perspective, we think we'll sell at a rate of about 3.9 million homes for the country in Q3. That will be one of the toughest quarters we have seen ever. So are you prepared? What are you doing today? And I'm not sharing this as bad news. I'm just sharing this as this group will be more prepared. It doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, I better go and find a job at Intel tomorrow because I don't know if I'll get to the third quarter. You will get through the third quarter. There are thousands and thousands of homes that are going to sell in our marketplaces in the third quarter. It's just how many of those will you sell? Are you doing the work while other people do not? And then Q4, we think we'll see a little bit of a rebound, hitting that 4 million homes sold. But again, it's lower than it's been. We sold 4.1 million homes, existing homes, in 2023. In 2024, we expect to hit just over 4 million. Hasn't been that low. In 2025, we hope it rebounds to 4.2 and then gets back to 4.5 and 4.7 and 5.2. Like we need to get back to 5 million homes selling across the country. New home sales, you'll see last year, 666,000 new homes closed, 684,000 in 2024 projected, 768,000 projected. Now, if you're a builder, you definitely want to see those numbers higher because look at your housing starts. If we started 1.4 million homes in 2023 and we're selling 768,000 in 2025, we're going to have some inventory and you're going to see that. Like that is why builders are a little bit nervous with inventory. And we're talking about big builders. We don't have a lot of that in our world, but a lot of markets do. So it's why I share that. Homeowner vacancy rate, and Chase, I'll get you in just a second. Homeowner vacancy rate, we've seen that go up just barely. By the way, that's a healthy vacancy rate. We don't have a whole lot of vacant homes. And then home price index in terms of 5.6% appreciation in 2023. The idea is we might see about 3.9% or 4% in 2024, 2025, 4.4%. And then the mortgage rates, 6.6, 6.6, right? 6.3, hopefully in 2025. But are you seeing 5% in 2025? No, you're not going to see that in 2025. Chase.
Forgive me if you mentioned it already, but what's driving that dip in Q3?
Interest rates and available and inventory. Interest rates and inventory. I'm gonna share your graph. That is the majority of what's driving the sort of the lockdown of inventory in just a minute. Good question. Home price appreciation, deceleration through the end of 2024. We talked about that at the outset, but this is the actual data and the graph. It's the Goldman Sachs forecast with that dotted red line. It's the Case-Shiller actual data up to about April in 2024. So we've seen that drop in appreciation and then actually an increase in appreciation over the last, let's call it 9 months. No one really expected that with increased interest rates. In fact, the idea from the Fed initially was, well, we'll increase some interest rates. We'll make it a little bit more expensive to purchase. It'll slow down appreciation. And it didn't happen largely because of inventory. What's really interesting is if we go all the way back to, a few years ago when interest rates got to 0%, or close to, when interest rates were non-existent, no one really thought about the effects, interestingly enough, or at least we weren't talking about the effects of what those interest rates would do 3 years and 4 years and 7 years from today, when normally people exited their home, delivered product to the market, people bought those homes, and then they moved up. You see what we did to ourselves? It's like second order thinking. When I think about our mental models and decision making, and we should think about that as human beings, as business owners, as just people, like second order thinking about that interest rate was, what is this going to do to our market in 7 years? What is it going to do to our market in 5 years when no one wants to exit a home that they have a 2.5% mortgage on? Now, nominal personal income actually continues to grow. And that's the reality. Like, as difficult as the housing market is economically, and I share this broad stroke, so don't get upset at me, but economically, the country is doing incredibly well. Like, the typical American has seen their disposable personal income per capita go up. And disposable means they don't need it, right? For food, shelter, and utilities. Isn't that interesting? Like, we have disposable income. So some people have decided to dispose of it in real estate, which is great because they're paying more and affordability isn't awesome. Some have, that's why a lot of our retail is doing well. And you see the stock market like hitting all sorts of records. Why? Because people are spending money. People are buying cars. People are buying technology and equipment. People are spending money on home improvements. So we definitely see that personal nominal income going up. Nicole?
Oh, I just keep hearing about credit card debt being,
We're going to talk about that
as well.
Yeah, we're gonna show that data, Nicole. So thank you for bringing that up. It's awesome. I always feel good when people bring up something. I'm like, I have a graph for that. I have some data on that. But yes, it is something that we should be mindful of because we are beginning to see, interestingly enough, credit card going up, credit card debt going up. Interestingly enough, if you dive into that research, sadly, it's a certain segment of the population as well, which definitely, right, needs to be addressed. The reality is per capita disposable income is going up, but that is largely because high net worth individuals are seeing more and more disposable income. And when you do it per capita, averages can be misleading. So Nicole is very bright to ask, yeah, but how about credit card debt? Because I kind of feel like that tells the American story more than disposable income per capita. And you are right. our clientele for the product that we sell here in Portland or Eugene or Salem or right Mid-Willamette is not, sadly, is not for, and it should be, but it is not right now for the typical American. Now, we want it to be, but I don't think anyone would argue with the fact that it is hard for people to buy homes right now. And so I'm going to show you that because I think economically we need to know what's going on, but take it with a grain of salt, because what you do want to look at is disposable income per capita, because that is your customer. Now we can have big, long conversations about how to solve the problems of the future. However, I'm here looking at, what do you sell for a job? Like, we sell homes. Who's buying those homes? And can they afford those homes? The reality is per capita disposable income says, yeah, I can deal with the affordability issues. Yes, I could deal with these interest rates. So we have not seen a decline in purchasing demand because of that, because incomes have gone up per capita. And even if you go to Oregon.gov and look at average income of the Oregonian, that has continued to go up as well, interestingly enough. So is there a disparagement between those that have their incomes going up and those that do not? Yeah, that's the problem. However, for your businesses, it's a healthy economic. There are healthy economic indicators for real estate. Rental affordability, still better than mortgage affordability, right? We saw that change over in about 2022, and we saw that mortgage payment as a percentage of income rate is that light blue line. The dark blue line is, what percentage of your income are you going to put towards a rental? Like, there's a big gap there. It is beginning to shrink because of the rental rates. But there's a big difference, and that is why, right? Homeownership percentage in this country has gone down because of this graph, because of the difference between those two. This is Case-Shiller, and this is annualized month over month. We talked about what it looks like for this year, heading towards 4%. If we look at the past 12 months, so rolling 12 behind us, we are at about 6% increase in March year over year. Okay, let's talk about mortgage and debt. Here are mortgage rates. So we've seen some rebounding. We have not seen the cuts we thought we were going to see. And so this is your 30-year fixed rate, hovering right below 7%, 6.6, 6.7, 6.8. We see where we were in the sub threes, and we see that, dramatic rise up over the course of the last 2 years. The forecast, as you can see from Goldman, is we will begin to see that trend down. I was in a call yesterday with some economists, not about real estate, but just about interest rates in general for our mortgage company. And specifically, they think that we will see a couple cuts by the end of the year, right through from now to the end of the year. And then hopefully just some leveling off in 2025. And by hopefully, I know we'd all hope for it to drop, but it's not going to. But hopefully it's not going to go up is the point there. But maybe first quarter of 2025, depending on what happens, we may see a little bit tick up. But figure we're gonna settle in around 6 and a third, 6.25, 6.35. That is going to be your new normal. So get used to it. Okay, so here's what's preventing, or why we're looking at this third quarter and fourth quarter and saying, hey, just the reality is our units, our available units are going to be lower. This is a graph on what percentage or the distribution of rates on outstanding mortgages. So you'll see that we are way heavy in the dark blue lines at 2.75%, 2.8%. Like, these are the percent of mortgages outstanding and what percent interest rate they have. The majority of all mortgages in the country are better than the current rate. So leaving those rates is difficult. Now, here's the bright spot or the good news. And this is actually some new data that they said, actually, maybe we shouldn't be so pessimistic about what the outlook or the future looks like in 2025 for people putting their homes on the market, because you see the share of owner-occupied homes without a mortgage has gone up considerably. That is your dark blue line on the right-hand side of that graph. You see we're close to 30% of owner-occupied homes without a mortgage. So that means that it's easier to sell, because I'm not selling a home with a 2% mortgage thinking I'm going to get into a 6.5% mortgage. That should highlight some potential inventory showing up to our market. And then you'll notice the light blue line in conjunction with that, mortgages that have a loan to value ratio of less than 50%. So yes, they may have a 3% mortgage. They may have a 2.7% mortgage, but they have 50% equity in their home. And so, going from a 50% equity mortgage to an 80% equity mortgage or 90%, that's difficult when you're at 2.75% and all of a sudden going to 6% or 6.5%. But you'll see that there's a big chunk of homes in this country that either have no mortgage, or the owners of those homes have 50% equity. They have a small mortgage. I mean, that's not small, but relatively speaking, they have a smaller mortgage than we may have expected. And so where we've been seeing this lock in inventory, we believe as these people on the right-hand side, that 29% and that 25.5%, right, below 50% LTV, when those people think about moving, would like to move, family situations ask them to move, a job move, like they would be more willing to make that move because the interest rate differential is going to affect them a lot less. Now, that's roughly 50 somewhat percent of all homes. And so I just think it's a really interesting new piece of data that I had not received before that could say, hey, on the horizon, we think inventory is going to open up. It may not have been clearly as quickly as we thought or hoped for, but we're okay. We will see that inventory show up. So probably not this year, but maybe next year, or when the natural cycle of selling shows up for them, right? Your typical 6, 7 years. Now, a lot of those people are 6, 7 years in, and now they're 8, 9, and 10 years in because they didn't want to get rid of their 2.5% mortgage. That is what's really, really hurt us. Fair? Couple more, and then we'll open it up for questions. This is actually that data, and I don't know what happened to 2020, but none of us do either, right? Like a lot went wrong in 2020. Clearly, during COVID, we forgot to check some data. So this is kind of the funniest graph of all of them. I sent a message over. I'm like, wow, 2020 was rough for Goldman, like it was for me, wasn't it? But anyway, this is the high share of U.S. homeowners who are mortgage free through 2022, and we see that going up and up and up and up. Now, largely it's because people pulled money out of the markets. Largely it's because, remember, prior to this weird moment that we are in, we saw 12, 15, 20% increases in equity. And now they've taken that equity out and they used it to purchase another home. We have a lot of people without mortgages. And so a lot of wealth tied up in real estate right now, a lot of equity, but that is really, really good for our country. It's really, really good for overall home values as well, because we're not worried or concerned about all of a sudden this massive number of foreclosures or high debt, or even if values drop by 5 or 6 or 7 or 8%, gosh, what's going to happen to the market? Probably nothing. And this is just one more graph. The share of low loan to value borrowers has grown steadily since the global financial crisis. So you'll see percent of mortgages with a LTV of less than 40%. You see it going up, right? 29, 2014, 2019, 2024. And then percentage of mortgages with greater than 80%, right? These are those tough mortgages, right? When they didn't put 20% down, look at that. 2009, lots of people were putting less than 20% down. 2014, 2019, 2024. So let me stop there. Questions as you hear that data, thoughts or feedback as you look at that data and we think about our industry and our market and our business. Anyone want to share an aha from the last 45 minutes? I just crushed it today, Leslie. Look at this. Like, either nobody was listening and they're like, oh my gosh, Chris just asked the question. What was the question? What does it have to do with? Or they're just, just in awe of the numbers and data that we provided. Jordan, go ahead.
I just, one of my takeaways is, so when I was doing team meeting last week, I was telling our agents, what you do during this summer is going to matter. What is your pipeline going to look like so you can survive the winter months? And when you said that there's going to be, what did you say, a little bit of a decrease and then a pickup back in 2025, you need to do something different. You need to get your unfair share. So what are you going to be doing in July and August so that shows up for you in the next months?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's a good transition for us to talk about briefly. Why don't I do that? Let me show you something. We have the time. Let's talk about how we can be successful. This is something that just some recommendations and suggestions that we delivered to our teams on our Place platform last week, really surrounding where are we? Let's get real about our current situation and the current market. And let's talk about what the recipe is going to be for a real estate agent to be successful through the end of the year. Now, I think in order to do that, we need to define success, right? For me to stand here and say, hey, this is what it's going to take to be successful is a little bit difficult, because all of us need to define what that means for us. And I'm not going to do that for you. But I do want to share just a couple of quotes. The first one is this one. The secret of being happy is accepting where you are in life, doing something about it, and then making the most out of every day. See, it doesn't matter what situation we're in. It doesn't matter if you're down 20% or 30% or 50%. What matters, by the way, if you get hung up on that, you get hung up on the fact that your business is not where you wanted it to be. You get hung up on the fact that, gosh, this is not what I thought it was going to look like. Well, then we're going to be unhappy. We're going to be unhappy with ourselves and our situation. And that's when people start looking for, oh, maybe if I go here, it'll be better. And maybe if I do that, it'll be better. And maybe if I just got a job, it would be better. Like, the secret of being happy is accepting where you are. This is where I am. Now I'm going to do something about it. And while I'm doing something about it, I'm going to make the most out of what I can every single day. See, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. I want us to think about that. Like, sometimes we get this backwards, especially in this industry. We're happy when things are going well. We're happy when deals are closing. We're happy when we take a listing. We're happy when we get something. We're happy when the commission check shows up. But that's not the key to happiness. I promise you, if you show up happy and where you're at every single day, that is going to be the key to your success. Right? Albert Schweitzer said, if you love what you're doing, you will be successful. Why? Because you'll be happy doing what you love. So we need to make sure we're clear. So what is that happiness recipe? The recipe for success? Like, if we approach it backwards, and I promise we'll get to real estate in just a second, but I think it's valuable. I think we need to break down these 5 key areas. Like, professionally, like, you're not going to be happy if you're not staying productive. I don't care who you are. No one is lazy all day and says, we all need lazy days, right? But no one is lazy all day consistently and says, man, this is just making me happy. I'm so happy that I'm lazy. I'm so happy that I'm unproductive. I'm so happy that I did nothing to move the needle for my business or my life or my people today. Like, we have to master our trade and be professional. Being professional and staying productive is going to make us happy. Mentally, how do we drive happiness? It's setting goals. It's being creative. It's making and upholding boundaries. It's reading and learning. Emotionally, like, how do we stay happy? It's being grateful, right? A gratitude practice. By the way, therapy is a beautiful thing if you need it, right? Spending time with friends makes us happy, right? Journaling and understanding where we're at makes us happy. Physically, We got movement. We have to move. It doesn't matter what your movement is, whether it's walking or running or stretching or sleeping. Like physically, that all of those things are important. Go outside, it will make you happy. And all of us need some spiritual routine for happiness as well. For some, it's prayer. For some, it's meditation. For some, it's quiet. But all these things have to happen in our life for us to be happy. And I promise if we're a group of happy human beings, we're going to be successful. Like I will tell you, my roughest days or my moments of when with a business just isn't clicking, it's because I'm unhappy about something. But I would say for the most part, I'm a happy guy. Like I find reasons to be happy professionally, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And so success follows happiness. But once we understand that, and we sort of put that in a bucket over here and say, thanks for that weirdness, Chris. Now let's jump into like reality of, okay, Chris, but this is hard. Like the business is hard right now. The industry is hard right now. Yeah, I get it. But we have to understand what is really hard. Like, what is it about the business that's hard? Let's go after what is hard. Understanding or conversing or having conversations with buyers in the next 30 to 60 to 90 days as things change, that is hard. But it's not if we're focused on it. If we quantify what is hard for you right now, what is hard in the business for you right now, and we address that, we're going to be okay because we are going to focus on solutions. C.S. Lewis says hardship often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Like that is a good thing. Interestingly enough, as the business gets harder, you know, we had our moment of complaining about it together, but we should also be grateful that it gets a little bit harder. Why? Because I told you, we're 1 million units fewer than we were a year or two ago, but we still have 2.5 million of us running around, right? Trying to share those 4 million units. Like making it hard is going to separate you if you focus on solutions. So let's have this conversation about focusing on solutions. How do we turn our obstacles into opportunities and our problems into possibilities? The first thing is doing something about it, right? Doing something about it. So I'm going to give you what our organization's success principles are. These are super simple. And you're going to be like, really, Chris? This is it? I promise you, this is it. The first thing, all right? If you're taking notes, success principle number 1, say the right things. What does that mean? What do you need to do in order to say the right things? You need to practice. You need to script. You need to know what to say. You need to know what's working. You need to know what's going on in the market so you could say the right things. Mike Bosworth says, with a good script, you can spend less time worrying about what to say and more time listening to your prospects' needs. We all need a little bit more of that, right? We need to have listening conversations. So the first success principle is, do you know what to say? If not, you need to plug into some of our training because no one does scripting and conversations better than we do here in our organization, in our company. So say the right things. The second thing is where we fall off the rails. It's say it enough times. And nobody loves the word enough because I'm going to tell you, it hasn't been enough. I see the results. We're not saying the right things to enough people. We're not making enough calls. We're not having enough conversations. We're not doing enough open houses. We're not reaching out to enough of our sphere. We're not dropping by enough of our past clients. We're not saying the right things enough times. Robert Collier says, success is a sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. See, nothing we do is that difficult. You know how I know? Because I can do it. And I don't do difficult. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. Now, am I highly focused on what is the right thing to say? Always. Always. I'm always thinking about what is the right thing to say here? What is the right thing to say? How do I get better at what I'm saying? And then I am willing to ask myself, am I saying it enough times? Well, last year it was enough, but this year it's not enough. So how do I say that more? How do I say it more without giving up a massive part of the quality of my life? How do I say it more without saying, oh, well, shoot, I need to go from 2 open houses to 6? That's not going to work for me. Then how do I get more people through that open house? Like, I'm looking for ways to say it enough times while also retaining my quality of life. But some of us have incredible quality of life. You just don't have any money because we're not willing to say the right things and say it enough times. And the third thing is have enough people to say it to, right? Say the right things, say it enough times, and have enough people to say it to. The best salespeople don't wait for leads to come to them. They go out and find them. Some of us have not learned that yet. We wake up every day a little unsure of what we're supposed to do. At this point in time in your career, and at this point in time in your relationship with us, you know what to do. There is always someone to have a conversation with. Every single day, you can put yourself in the path of a potential buyer and a potential seller, a future buyer, future seller, an immediate buyer, immediate seller. We know where they are. There are FSBOs in your markets. There's expired listings in your markets, right? There are renters in your markets that are waiting for you to knock on their door. I can see there are thousands of people in your database that you've connected with in the past. The best salespeople don't wait for leads to come to them. They go out and find them. Have enough people to say it to. See, these 3 simple actions, truly, 3 simple actions are the simple success principles of any business. By the way, every business is sales. You might think, well, I don't know if I want to do sales anymore. Okay, well, where are you going to work? I mean, choose a company. There's phenomenal companies. I love Starbucks. Actually, I don't love Starbucks, but it just seemed like something I should say. You love Starbucks. Work at Starbucks. Starbucks is sales. Like, truly, it is sales. By the way, like, I have friends that work at Starbucks. They go through sales training. Whether you realize it or not, they are upselling you every time you walk in. Like, you thought you were going to get one of those, what are they called? Talls, and you're getting a venti. Like, they sell as good as anybody. Like, every job is sales because we live in a capitalistic society. So if you work for a company, guess what? That company is focused on sales. Now you might say, yeah, but I'm just gonna do something non-sales for that company. Everybody is more valuable to their company when they're in sales. So do it here or do it somewhere else, but you're still gonna do it. You're still gonna need to know what to say. You're still gonna need to say it enough times, and you're still gonna have to find enough people to say it to. So there's my simple formula for success as we head into, right, the 3rd quarter and the 4th quarter. Now, I hope over the last 45 minutes, 55 minutes, we learned what to say. We got some data points that we said, hey, that is good for me to say. That is good for me to share. I hope over the next 30 to 60 days, you will continue learning what to say. I shared earlier, and Mike Popino's on the call. I shared earlier that I think that as the landscape changes with our buyer consultations and the value we bring, like, your relationship with understanding what products you have to talk and pitch and converse about is something new to say. Like, I met with Mike yesterday and talked about these 3 new programs. And immediately afterwards, I say, hey, send me that because I need to learn about those programs, because I need to communicate to buyers about those programs. Like, we should, if I care about it, you need to care about it too. We all need to care about it. But my commitment to all of us in this network is that we're going to know what to say. We're gonna push you to say it enough. We're gonna hold you accountable to say it enough, and we're gonna go find enough people to say it too. Leslie, that's what I got this morning.
Woo! Not only did you get the economic update, I feel like we just got like the bonus round. Does anybody else feel like that? Look at all the smiles, thumbs up. Chris, thank you so much. So, economic update, you know what to say. NAR settlement replay, check it out in the link and the follow-up. Know what to say and apply the formula for success. So, Katie, everything's going to be in the wrap-up email and the video so they can watch this and the open house NAR settlement again, right?
Yep. And you know what to do. Go do it. Happy Wednesday, everyone.
right,
Thanks all
guys.
for coming.